Hi, I'm Holly, and with my sister Heather, you're listening to Haunted Family Podcast, a podcast about the paranormal, unsolved mysteries, and even some true crime.
Yes.
I'm still not saying weekly, even though we're kind of getting back on track. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to jump the gun on it.
We're getting better, though. Things are settling down.
They are. And if you are listening to this and you hear what sounds like a bear in the background, it is not. I did not kick the dogs out because this is their bedtime. And if I kick them out, then they just stand outside the door and they bark because they want to be in here and go to bed. So we recorded a little bit later tonight and they were all laying in bed asleep. So if you hear a bear, it's just dog snores. I promise you. Although we did have a bear in the neighborhood, which is weird because I live in the city. But other than that one, I have not seen a bear.
That's good.
Yeah. So we have an interesting topic for today.
We do.
We're kind of talking about a local.
A local from an interesting area of Kentucky.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we're doing that thing again where we act like our listeners don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. They're probably hating us about that, and we're going to get hateful emails.
So, for those of you who don't know, Edgar Cayce, the spiritualist,
psychic, holistic guru
/ hypnotist.
Yeah,
he was known as the Sleeping Prophet. Was a Kentucky native.
Yep, Hopkinsville, which is, I consider Hopkinsville Western Kentucky because the time change is right about there. But I don't really think that the rest of the state thinks of them as Western Kentucky. I think they still think of them as Central. I don't know. All I know is around that area, the E-Town area, the time changes. And it's very weird that Kentucky has 2 different time zones.
Yes. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Hopkinsville was actually a stop on the Trail of Tears.
Boo.
Yeah, which, I mean, most of you all should have covered that in school.
Honestly, we didn't really cover it in school.
We glossed over it. But the Trail of Tears was the forced relocation of Native Americans from the southeastern part of the United States to land west of the Mississippi River. So it was the Cherokee, which usually when you think of the Trail of Tears, most people just think of the Cherokee, but it was also the Muskogee, the Seminole, the Chickasaw, and the Choctaw. Yeah, it was not good. And Hopkinsville was one of the places that they stopped at along the way. Hopkinsville also kind of became known or infamous for, and we've actually talked about this case for a bit. Hopkinsville Kelly Encounter, also known as the Kelly Little Green Men case, or I think it actually has a few other different nicknames.
We covered it, so go back to our alien episode.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot we did a whole episode on it. And then I talk about it a little bit in my YouTube video that discusses the Hellier documentary, because the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter pops up in the Hellier documentary.
Cool.
Yeah. I looked it up. Edgar Cayce, where he lived in Hopkinsville, and where this happened at, is actually on 2 separate sides of Hopkinsville. So 20 minutes apart or so.
Yeah, Kentucky has 125 counties. I think it's 125 counties. So really, it's so hard to forget that some counties exist because there are so many. And the way Kentucky is shaped, generally anything west, close to Illinois and Tennessee, and we literally forget any of that exists. And then the people who work that area, when we go to meetings and I tell them, oh, I forget that your side of the state exists, then they get kind of, not happy with me. But it's kind of true. I mean, we live in eastern Kentucky, but we're really close to central. So, which is where, if you know anything about basketball, it's where UK is. So we have lots of stuff that happens in Lexington, and we can get there pretty quick. But people in Western Kentucky, it's like an all-day drive, and then there's a time change, and It's just not cool. So, he was born like 1877. So, this was a long time ago.
But he only died in like the 40s. So, he had a pretty good life.
Yeah, 1945, I think.
Yeah.
People may not know this about him, but he was actually very devoutly religious. And
yes. He was
read the Bible like a million times.
He was a member of the Disciples of Christ, which is a Protestant denomination. And he really struggled with, and this is something that a lot of Christians who were also psychic struggle with, at least that I've heard from, with having his gifts and, who do they come from? Are these gifts that come from God, or, are they gifts that I shouldn't be using? And ultimately he decided that he should be using them, and he should be using them for the betterment of people.
Yeah, when he was really young, he would play with, and all the research say little people, so I'm assuming that to mean fairies. And he could see his dead grandfather and talk to him, but he could see that all of grandfather fairies were all kind of see-through, so he knew that they were not presently with him, that they were kind of on another plane. And one day, while he was reading the Bible in the woods, he saw a winged woman who told him that his prayers were answered and that what he wanted most of all, he would get. And that's when he said what he most wanted to do in life is to help other people, especially sick kids.
Very noble.
Very noble. Yeah. And, okay, so this next thing, I swear to you, I tried this when I was little, and it did not work for me, and I was so sad. So, his teacher was complaining to his parents that he wasn't doing very well in school.
I kind of suspect that Edgar Cayce had a learning disability.
Probably.
Just from things that I've read about him.
And so he heard a voice that said, if you go to sleep, they can help you. So he asked to take a nap, and he put his head on the book and went to sleep. And when his dad woke him up a little while later, he knew all the answers. You do not know how many times I have slept on my books hoping that I would know. It never once worked for me.
If only it was that easy for us all.
I know. But he did later tell his teacher that he was able to see pictures of the pages of the book. So he probably was able to develop some sort of photographic memory.
Yeah. But he did not stay in school long.
Nope. 9th grade education.
Yeah. Mostly due to financial problems with the family. His family was, poor farmers, as you see a lot in Kentucky. In about 1900, almost in 1990, Edgar Cayce formed a business partnership with his dad to sell insurance. Actually, Woodman of the World Insurance. They are still going strong, so you can actually still buy insurance from Woodman of the World.
I did not know that they were insurance. I didn't know that Woodman of the World was an insurance group. Because remember we judged that pageant in that Woodman of the World building?
Yes, I remember that. And not long after they started selling insurance, he was struck down with a very bad case of laryngitis and completely lost all ability to speak. Well, if you can't speak, you can't sell insurance.
I have heard that.
Because, it's a great deal of talking that goes on with insurance salesmen. Well, salespersons. Because, you can be a woman insurance salesman.
That's true. My ex-mother-in-law was an insurance salesman, and she was very much a woman.
Yeah, she was pretty good at it, too. So, he started dabbling in other things. He took up photography, and he started apprenticing at a photography studio in Hopkinsville. And about a year later, a hypnotist came into town. And he said that he could cure Edgar Cayce's laryngitis.
So, of course, he jumped on it.
Yes. And he was able to cure it only while Cayce was under hypnosis. As soon as he brought Cayce out from under hypnosis, he went back to having laryngitis. All of this experimentation actually took place at the office of a local throat specialist. So this led Cayce to pursue this further. At one point in time, he actually went to New York to another hypnotist.
Okay, Dr. Quackenboss. That is literally the best name for a hypnotist.
You know, I kind of want to learn how to do hypnosis.
I kind of want to meet somebody whose last name is Quackenboss.
Okay, how about I change my last name to Quackenboss and I become a hypnotist?
That sounds perfect.
Okay. We'll just kill two birds with one stone there. Heather Quackenboss, hypnotist. I like the sound of that.
I like the sound of that, yes. So, the New York hypnotist, Dr. Quackenboss, did the same thing. You know, put him under, he could talk. And so, he said that Cayce was going to have to do it himself. Kind of a second stage hypnosis. They had Cayce describe his condition, and then while he was in the trance, cure it. Yeah, the whole thing just kind of hurts my head thinking about it. While he was under, instead of saying I, he kept saying we, as if, you know, he was with somebody else. And they say that his laryngitis was caused by psychological paralysis, and it could be corrected by increasing blood flow to the voice box. Very weird.
Yes.
Yeah, well, still in the trance, Cayce declared that the treatment was over. He woke up and he was able to talk again.
Well, apparently, from what I understand, there's like a couple different types of hypnotizing. There's stage hypnotists that, you know, are like all about the show. And then there's like hypnotic regression for like the purpose of finding things. Like clinical hypnot.
So after that, he started giving free treatments to people in the town. And what they called it was self-imposed hypnotic trance, which then induced his clairvoyance. So he could diagnose physical and mental conditions just by putting himself in a trance, and then the answer would come to him. But he was worried that whatever he told people, that somebody would die and then he would be considered a murderer. So he was very cautious.
And he also, at this point in time, he was refusing to take any form of payment for his readings.
Right. So 1902, he got a job working at a bookshop in Bowling Green, which is very western Kentucky. And he stayed with a couple doctors, lost his voice while he was there. Anyway, then
this whole thing reminds me of this kid I was in band with, who it seemed like he had laryngitis every other week.
That's so crazy. I've never really had it.
I haven't either.
I mean, like, I've had vocal strain from like screaming or like loud singing, or, you know, I mean, like something like that, but I've never had just laryngitis.
Anybody who has heard you sing will tell you that you should probably never have vocal strain from loud singing.
That is very true. Okay, so he got married to Gertrude Evans on June 17th, 1903, and she moved to Bowling Green with him.
And they had a bunch of kids.
They had 3 kids, Hugh, Milton, and
Edgar.
Well, Gertrude did not like the readings. And he was still back and forth about whether or not it was moral to even do them. So the people in the boarding house, the doctors, found out about the readings, and so he got lots of publicity, and he just kind of rolled with it. He just started doing these readings.
Well, okay, at this point in time, he opened a photography studio. He was still giving readings, and a lot of doctors in the area were intrigued and skeptical of his readings and abilities.
Right.
Wanted to investigate further. After a very rough examination while he was in a trance, the examination was conducted by one of the doctors. Cayce refused any more investigations, any more examinations, declared finally that he would only do readings for those who absolutely needed his help and believed that the readings would help them.
Over time, like if he was asked multiple questions on different dates, different years, but the questions were the same, he always gave the same answer.
Yes, he was very consistent. And, I mean, he predicted some things that have came true. He didn't just, do things that healed people. He predicted future events. In a trance, in one trance, he predicted the stock market crash of 1929. He predicted the start of World War II. He predicted the poles, the North and South Pole shift, which, I mean, now we know that happens ever so often. But back in his time, that wasn't known and understood as universally. One thing that is, he also predicted that we would be able to use blood, just, drops of blood, to be able to tell what was going on with the human body. To be able to analyze blood and, find out what illnesses and what. And one thing, he had a secretary. Let me see if I have his secretary's name wrote down. Okay, I don't have it written down, but he actually had a secretary take notes of every reading he gave.
Actually, and all of the readings and all of the notes, they're all stored in a library. But you can access them on edgarcayce.org, but you have to sign up.
Yeah, actually, the organization he founded, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, or AR, manages it all. And I actually thought about signing up for this. You can get full access to their library and all of those notes for $50 a year.
Oh, that's not bad.
Probably the first time during one of these researches that we've done where I actually thought about paying the fee to access something fully. His organization has a prison outreach program.
Cool.
And they have classes, and they have weekly free activities too. So it's not all, pay to play with them. They have youth camps. That's very, very interesting. But yeah, there's over 14,000 readings are available in the members section of his website.
Really cool. He didn't really know what he was saying in the trance. So when he came to, he would find out what he said.
Right. He actually kind of argued with his secretary and the people who was with him during one reading because he came to out of his trance and they were reading it back to him, and he was amazed that in his trance he had confirmed astrology and all this. And he was like, no way. No.
Yeah, and he wrestled with the fact that in a trance he believed in reincarnation because he said that it went against his Christian teachings. But then he later came to accept it because Hinduism, says that reincarnation happens. So he was able to justify it a little bit later, but for the longest time he wrestled with not believing what he was saying. But he believed that your strongest personality trait of your past life stays with you into your current life. And that he believed his past life, he was an Egyptian high priest that had occult powers, but that he misused them. And then in another reincarnation, he was a Persian doctor. So he felt like the ability to have powers and able to heal stayed with him into his current life. He believed that every single person that was born has powers, has occult powers, psychic ability, whatever you want to call it, up until about the age of 7, and then they either forget it because they don't use it, or they're told to hide it and not tell anybody about it. But he believes that all children are psychic.
I'd believe that.
I mean, I work with kids all the time, and they do say some crazy things. But I mean, I just know from a kid that even when I was super, super little, I could see things and do things, and it just never went away.
But we also came from a family that, as weird and mixed up as they are, supported that. And
well, that's true, but we also come from a family that's a little bit crazy in the sense that I was clearly having anxiety and was told that I was not capable of putting anxiety into words. Like, I didn't know what was happening to me, but I was told that I was just predicting negativity that was about to happen. No, I was just anxious. So, anyway, yes, they encouraged it, probably sometimes more so than they should have. But with the reincarnation, he also believed that people like have soul groups that they incarnate with. So like when you run into somebody and you feel like you've known them your whole life, but you just met them, that's a case of you probably knew them in a past life.
And I'd believe that. Holly and I have reincarnated together before.
I wonder though, like, I have a strong reaction and like actively dislike people upon sight, and I so wondered, does that mean that I had issues with them in the past? Like, I have a friend, and he was dating this girl. I mean, like, he literally was just a friend. Like, he's closer to Heather's age, so it was almost like a son to me. But he was dating this girl, and I hated her upon sight, and she literally did nothing to me, and I still dislike her. I still have strong like feelings against her, and she didn't do anything other than to say hi. So I don't know, completely possible, probably.
But then again, you also just like hate people.
I do, yeah, but not generally that strongly upon first sight. I'm gonna say it's because she did something to me in a past life.
He has predicted that sometime in the future there will be a self-fueling perpetual motion machine.
Cool. I thought we were supposed to have flying cars by now, so I'm really disgusted that we don't.
According to this, strife will arise through the period. Watch for them near Davis Strait in attempts there for keeping of the life of the land open. Watch for them in Libya and Egypt, in Ankara and in Syria, through the straits about those above Australia, in the Indian Ocean and the Persian Gulf. Well, I mean, if he's predicting strife in the Persian Gulf, we've already had that a couple times, and I mean, we'll probably have that again. So
that anybody could predict that.
Yeah. But this was, in the 30s when he probably didn't even know, that we was going to have so much problems in that area of the world. He predicted the rise and the fall of Adolf Hitler.
The fall I'm really excited about, but boo to the rise.
I guess one of his last, maybe his last prediction was he predicted his own death.
Well, I mean, I could see that. I can't tell you the number of deaths that I've predicted.
Yeah, well, in August of 1944, he collapsed. Probably a lot of that had to do with the pace that he was working and how many readings he was giving. Psychic work is very draining. He did a reading on himself and was told that he needed to rest until either he healed or he died.
Obviously, he did not rest.
Yeah, so, well, he did. Him and his wife retreated into the mountains of Virginia for a while. And then in September, he had a stroke. In January, actually January 1st, 1945, he did another reading on himself. And he predicted during that reading that in 4 more days, he would die. On January 3rd, 1945, he suffered another stroke. And that one was the one that killed him.
So sad.
Yeah. So, his body was brought back to Hopkinsville, where he was born. And he was interred at the Riverside Cemetery there in Hopkinsville. The organization that he founded, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, still exists in Virginia. Now, it wasn't just only regular normal people that supported him. Woodrow Wilson was a fan of Edgar Cayce's work, as was Irving Berlin and George Gershwin. And another big supporter and fan of Edgar Cayce's work was none other than Thomas Edison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was he able to predict the light bulb?
Oh, goodness, Holly.
Like, dude, I predict
that you need to get in there and build me a light bulb.
Yeah. And then he's like, what's a light bulb?
Well, now, I mean, I kind of wonder because, it's rumored that Edison was working on a ghost phone. A phone to be able to talk to the dead.
I didn't know you needed a phone for that.
Well, I mean, I guess some people don't have, that psychic connection.
So he probably got the idea from Edgar Cayce.
Maybe. Because, Edgar Cayce was $1-800 ghost himself.
What was that psychic from like the 80s, the Psychic Friends Network? But it was like
Miss Cleo.
Miss Cleo. He was Miss Cleo before Miss Cleo. What do you want to... Stupid criminal?
Let's do stupid criminal, but let's do a kind of serious criminal also.
Okay.
Right before we sat down to record, I flipped onto Facebook. I went onto Facebook and saw a news article from France.
Okay.
Staff at a French nursing home found the body of a 92-year-old woman, and when they did the autopsy on her, they found that she had suffered injuries to her face and had been strangled.
Ugh.
Her 102-year-old roommate admitted to killing her.
What?
Yeah. Apparently she had been in a great state of agitation and had just snapped. So the 102-year-old is now in a mental facility getting a psychological evaluation. But, I mean, she's 102. What are you going to do? Are you going to put her in jail?
Yeah, no.
I mean, that's kind of a hard point to be in.
Yeah, because, I mean, she murdered somebody.
But she's 102 years old.
She's 102 years old, and prison is literally a death sentence.
Jail could be a death sentence.
Right.
Because she's literally 102.
But she also literally killed somebody.
True. So, I mean, I'm going to try to keep tabs on that and see what all becomes of that case.
Yeah, I would be interested to know, too, because that's just... Wow, I don't even know what to think about that.
Okay, so our stupid criminal. Sometimes when you get stopped by the cops, your first reaction is to give a fake name, right?
Never.
Oh, what, not? Really?
Well, I don't. Usually I have my license and registration ready. So when they come tap on my window and they say, ma'am, do you know how fast you were going? I can say, I sure do, as I hand them my driver's license.
Really? Because when they asked me how fast I was going, I'm like, isn't that your job?
Yeah, but I usually have my cruise control on, so I know how fast I was going.
Okay, well, what about when they roll up to your house for domestic violence? You're tempted to give them a fake name then, right?
I can honestly say that I've never had the cops at my house for domestic. I've never had cops. I've never had cops come to my house for anything except to tell me that Dad died.
Okay, well.
Wait, no, hold on. Sorry. I also had cops come to my house because my neighbors had a party and then their friends helped themselves to all their CDs while they were passed out drunk, and they called the cops.
Oh,
and then
back during the days of CDs.
And so then the cops came to ask me if I saw anything, and I was like, dude, I was not awake at 3 o'clock when these people were staggering out. So, no, I didn't see anything. And also, my neighbors are assholes, and they deserve to have their CDs stolen by their friends.
When Lincoln, Nebraska police rolled up to the house and asked Markel Towner what his name was, they were called there for domestic, he gave them a fake name because he already had 2 arrest warrants out on him, and he knew it would probably end badly for him if they knew his real name.
Right.
But Mr. Towner forgot that he was wearing a lanyard around his neck.
Oh, my.
With his name badge hanging from it that had his real name written on it.
And probably a picture.
Yeah. Well, he then decided that since he, had already screwed up so badly, that he was just going to go whole hog and have a tussle with police when they tried to arrest him.
No, that never ends well.
No. So he was taken into custody and charged with resisting arrest, obstructing government operations, false reporting, child neglect, and 3rd-degree domestic assault. And he is this week's stupid criminal. Because if you're going to lie to police, make sure that your real name isn't hanging around your neck.
Well, okay, this next one, they've not been caught. So they're still, I'm going to do stupid criminal too. They're still on the run. And honestly, this is the kind of criminal that I want. And this is the kind of criminal that's going to make me move to Massachusetts instead of Connecticut. I mean, it's been a toss-up about, where am I going to live? Am I going to go to Connecticut? Am I going to go to Massachusetts? Am I going to go to Maine? Is it going to be Vermont? Maybe little New Hampshire? I haven't decided.
How about Rhode Island? We were in Rhode Island for all of like 3 seconds. Okay, tell me your stupid criminal.
Okay, so I was really leaning towards Connecticut until I read the story. Someone broke into a home where in Massachusetts was it? Marlborough, Massachusetts. I'm probably saying that wrong because
you're not rolling your R's properly.
I'm not rolling my R's. And it's one thing I learned when we were up there is that I'm going to have to learn how to talk all over again because
you people in Massachusetts have like the most amazing accent.
I know, like seriously, our friend Luann, I'm just like, just don't shut up, just keep talking to me.
Oh, which shout out, I don't know if you'll have this up by June 3rd, but June 3rd, Travel Channel, 10 o'clock, A Haunting. Our friend Luann will be on it. The title of the show is House of Nightmares. It's all about a case that she worked with her paranormal investigation team. You'll want to watch it.
Yes, you will want to watch it. And Luann is our good friend who lives in Massachusetts, and so she's all for me moving there. I don't know necessarily the Marlborough, Massachusetts, but anyway, somebody broke into the home and didn't take anything. But he cleaned the house, it could be a girl, cleaned the house spotless. Not only did they clean the house spotlessly, but they even crafted origami roses on the toilet paper roll. And he said that it was weird and creepy when he reported it to the police. But I'm thinking, that's awesome. And somebody needs to break in and clean my house.
Maybe it really wasn't like, a criminal. Maybe it was a house fairy.
Maybe. I mean, that's possible, I guess.
Maybe it's like the better Puckwudgie.
Yeah, not the evil one.
Yeah. We want to thank you all for listening to us today. If you are watching this before Luann's episode airs, you will want to tune in and watch that. It's going to be good. I mean, I've not seen it yet, but I just know it's going to be good.
Luann is really awesome.
Yeah. Apparently this is going to be the first of many things that she's doing with the Travel Channel this year. So we will keep you up to date on all of her TV appearances as we are allowed to. Tune into our YouTube channel. It is not nearly as flashy as the Travel Channel, but we just hit 100 subscribers, so yay us.
We're over 100 now.
I know, we are at 101. Woo! Listen, y'all, when we hit 100, I did a happy dance. Like, literally, it was embarrassing.
Yeah, because she dances like I sing. Actually, I dance the same way. We once were dancing at Kings Island, which is an amusement park in Ohio, and literally fell on the ground.
People stared. People laughed. It was funny.
It was funny. Visit my Etsy shop, Cat Hair Glitter, and my second shop, Olivia Beth Boutique.
Yep. And most importantly, Thanks for listening.
Listening.
Bye.